everyone, and thank you for the organizers for organizing this. Before starting talking about the main thing, I would like to say a little bit of things about myself, but mainly some things related to the reason why it's important for small and medium businesses and organizations to move away from big tech. I found it on my daily job. I find it very important to do this part because based on the experience I have so far and my colleagues have so far, it's not very clear what's going on, what is wrong with the status of the big tech at the moment. So my name is Redon. I'm a relatively long time, almost 10 years now, contributing open source softwares, mainly doing Wikimedia and OpenStreetMap related things. I've been being engaged since the first days at Open Labs Hackerspace, and lately I've initiated the LibreTech School, which aims to teach open source platforms to everyday users, basically. So, and I do business development I pay my bills doing business development at cloud68.co, which I'm going to mention later on. So I started, I wanted to do the similar presentation at a conference, a regional conference, which are the conferences I like most usually because they're more intimate, which happened in Pristina a couple of months ago. And I was listening to a song which was related to the Summer of Love which happened in Los Angeles in California back in 1967, which was many decades ago. And this was a group of people that were suspicious to the government. They were opposing the Vietnam War, which is a big issue at the moment at the US. And weirdly enough, they were not interested in politics, but they were also rejecting consumerist values that were, growing after the Second World War, right? And after that, it was 1968. In May in France, in the French Revolution in the universities happened. But most importantly or non-importantly, it was released a song from a group called a duo called Zyger and Evans, and they released a song called "In the Year 2525." As I mentioned, it was just released after the Summer of Love in the US. It was a one-hit wonder, which means that never had much success as a group after that. A huge #1 hit, and it was very, very technophobic, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So if you go to YouTube or any other platform, or if you have the record, you're going to listen to the lyrics, or you can search the lyrics. And as I mentioned before, it's very, very heavily technophobic. So it started by saying, in the year 3535, you ain't gonna need to tell the truth and no lies. Everything you think, do, and say is in the pill you took today. And the song goes on and on with this kind of very, like, things that we should be afraid of what's going to happen in the, next thousands of years after the song was released, which again was released in 1967, right? So it ends up by saying, in the name 9595, I'm kind of wondering if man's going to be alive. He's taking everything this old earth can give, and he ain't put back nothing, right? Again, not a very good vibe for Saturday morning or whatever time zone you're on, but I'm getting to the point. So as I mentioned before, very, very technophobic. And we now live in 2020, which is a round number, by the way. And this song a decade before, it was also covered ironically by the singer of the Stone Roses, Ian Brown. Just a general info. So in the 2020, we have things like, you open the news at the phone using the phone, and you see like things like Elon Musk unveils pig with computer connected chip in brain. Which sounded at me at the time when I read this and I saw the video, it was very weird. I didn't know if it's good or bad, but I found it very scary. And you have also companies like Amazon. You cannot even count the number of vast amount of money and the wealth this company has generated, and it just was started in 1999, if I'm not mistaken. right? And it has like billions of US dollars in value. You have, only in, just to mention a number, in 2019, it was reported that more than 80% of the biggest companies in Germany, from the DAX, network, which is the stock exchange part of the tech companies in Germany, 80% of these companies used Amazon Web Services, which means practically almost all of them, right? So in you have things like Google search being censored in Iran, GitHub, which is now owned by Microsoft, blocking or not giving access to scientists in Iran as well. Just go to articles from Associated Press mentioning Google employees leave work to protest treatment of women, and all kind of things. Apple giving the Chinese government access to its devices for security checks. So I was, and this is very funny, I was in Turkey this year near the city center, and I saw a huge private advertising ad from Apple promoting the privacy that it offers as a phone. And the stories go on, and all this happening in this day and age. You have Dropbox, which is hosting a lot of data from individuals and companies, which many years ago appointed Condoleezza Rice. It was a politician and responsible for initiating wars on the board of directors, which I don't understand why someone that is so related to the army should have been to the board of a very heavily tech company, right? So again, you can just browse the news related to technologies, and you can see things like this. Actually, at the second quarter of 2020, you have the 10 largest corporations by market that have a huge amount of money. We are talking about a monopoly, and we call these companies GAFAM based on their names, like Google, Amazon, Facebook, etc. Right. So I think the conclusion should be not in the years that the duo in the year 25. We are now in 2020, and I think we should absolutely agree that we have a big tech problem, which means that all the small businesses, organizations, groups, communities, we also have a big problem as well. So I would say that we have lots of big tech problems. The majority of them being in the fact that you cannot go away not using these platforms. You need to have Facebook to talk to your grandma. You need to have Dropbox to share files now in a pandemic, etc., etc. Or at least this is the perception that we have, or it's a reality because that has started not now, like the last 5 years. I think it's being more heavy and heavy. Their powers are being concentrated, but it's going to be like this for a long time if we don't fight back, of course. And the question in events like this, I think it should be: are there any alternatives? And if they are not, why should we do to change this, right? So this is a big question. I think they are. I'm very happy they are. You were going to have later on a presentation from Italo Vignoli, and he's going to share how a platform like LibreOffice, which started fighting against a big corporation like Microsoft, has gained, I would say, market share, right? And you have companies and organizations, open source software like Nectcloud, being very good competitors to Office 365 or Dropbox. And you have Gmail, but also you have ProtonMail, which is encrypted, doesn't sell your data, and it's hosted in Switzerland, which is a neutral country in terms of the laws of the privacy laws, right? And you have, of course, Slack is used by small and medium enterprises, and also big enterprises as well. I only recently have at the office we had an organization that joined us, and they want to migrate from Slack to this alternative, to Mattermost, which is an open source. They have an open source community edition, and they couldn't because they needed to pay lots of money to just move their data from this platform to Mattermost. And of course, we have Google Analytics, which powers the majority of the, tracks the majority of the websites that are out there, because everybody thinks it's convenient, but we're giving away our data. But fortunately, there are platforms like Matomo, it's open source, you can audit the code, you can see if it tracks you and where it says the data, but it has to be self-hosted, right? It's not in the cloud somewhere else. SoundCloud, major platform for hosting podcasts, and a lot of lots of artists have their music there. And now there is in the alpha version, some very nice people have started developing Funkware, which is a very good alternative. And the list goes on. It's I'm very happy to see that there are so many alternatives like there. Trello is also used from small and medium enterprises. And there is Wecan. There is also an application connected to Nextcloud, which you can use to as a Kanban project management system to manage your data. And of course, now with the pandemic, everybody's using Zoom, except communities like ours and like you guys that are organizing FOSSCOMM. And happily, I'm very happy to see that you're using BigBlueButton, and I'm very happy to see that more and more organizations and companies are using also Jitsi and other open source platforms that are out there. Again, the list goes on and on. Tableau and Data Studio, which are data analysis and data visualizations for companies that need to do this kind of things. There is Metabase. I've used it. It's super nice. It's getting the community there is growing, but also it's a very solid company offering an open source alternative out there. Don't get me started on Facebook. Even if there is no alternative, I wouldn't use it. Due to the way they treat our data and the way what they've done in order to influence governments, democracies, elections, etc., etc. Again, fortunately, there are platforms like Discourse where the discussion can go on without giving away our data to these big tech companies and evil companies. And I think Discourse, by the way, I think it was funded by Mozilla, which is very good. One of the good things Mozilla has done, and very productive. Again, the list goes on. We can stay here and see that there is an alternative for every one of the software that small and medium enterprises and organizations and companies and communities are using right now. If you just go and use DuckDuckGo, not Google, and search for open source alternative to the software you're using, you're going to find the software there. But there is a question: why aren't people massively using those alternatives? Why it's our friends that presented before me said, hey, we think that people know about this stuff, but they don't. We believe we are very frustrated why they don't use these alternatives on a daily basis. And why they're not massive. I don't remember the names of the articles I've read since the mid-2000s where it would be the year of the Linux desktop, and it's a very slow process. And the interesting thing is that before 10 years, or even 5 years before, the software that I mentioned before was not mature enough. They had a lot of bugs. They had they were not. It was very hard to implement and install them on your computer before. At least you need a lot of search. And the answer is people are not using these platforms, at least not as much as you would like to, because they are not considered a plug-and-play solution. Everybody thinks and has the perception that Zoom is very easy to use. I don't know about you, I found it very, very confusing when I tried to use it once. And of course, now more and more articles are being published about how badly they are managing our data and how bad their security and privacy practices are. So they are not plug and play. And the average Joe would like to have just something easy to use, right? So, and the other major problem is that these platforms, you need to self-host those. you cannot, if you want to reclaim your data, you need to host them somewhere that it's not Amazon or that it's not Google and all these big companies, or you can host them there yourself. And of course, you need server space, you need an installation of a specific software that I mentioned before. You need to know about Docker and the images that you need to use. You need also to have a good uptime. 99% of uptime is optimal. So you're not doing your job at the company or your small community, and you cannot have access to your cloud infrastructure, and you need that file right now. You cannot, if it's plug and play, it should be up there all the time, and the uptime should be almost 100%. And of course, the pain that is called maintenance of the software. New releases are out there. You need to upgrade all the time, and you need to, sometimes you need also to downgrade to maintain the software in order to, if there are bugs in the software, right? Again, good news. That's why I mentioned before, I'm not a technophobic, I'm an optimistic. And the good news is that there are communities and initiatives, just like Pharmasoft based in France, that they are working very hard to implement alternatives that are as good as this one, as good as the Zoom or Google platforms at the moment. And Pharmasoft is only one of the initiatives. There are other initiatives implementing free and open source software, or there are companies just like Nectcloud that I mentioned before in the beginning that do the software, they implement the software. But you need, as I mentioned before, to have it plug and play. And also there are more good news. There are networks or small companies that are popping up all over. You can find them on LibreHosters. If you search on LibreHosters, you're going to find a list of ethical hosting providers that are hosting and maintaining and managing these applications so that you don't have to. And the good thing is that their ethics are more important than anything else. Knowing them, I can entirely vouch for these people. They try their best to be as ethical as possible and manage their data in the most transparent way as possible by using free and open source software. In Greece, you have the guys from LibreOps. If you search their website, you're going to see that they're doing exactly the same. They're also offering infrastructure for free if you need an Etherpad to take notes, right? And it's based in France again. It's indie hosters. They're doing the same with LibreOps, and they are from the LibreHosters network. Their ethical integrity is quite high. They put protecting your data and transparency before getting money out of considering people clients. Just like Stathis mentioned before, infrastructure should be sometimes should be. It has a lot of power. Who owns our infrastructure, right? And it's the same not only at the health industry, but also in many other industries as well. And it's also more important, not for big corporations, this is my opinion, but it's highly important for smaller teams and medium-sized teams, and also individuals, for example, freelancers, right? We recently met and became friends with some good ethical hosters that are hosting open source software from Crete, a beautiful island in Greece. They are called Stimpriza. People that know Greek friends know that this is pun intended, I guess. And of course, one of the alternatives is also the collective. I mean, it's Cloud 68. And what we do, as I mentioned, we basically do what the other Libra hosters do. We manage this the alternatives open source software to the big tech for you, so that you don't have to get into the cables and to upgrade and to go through all the pain for that. And of course, the good news is that if you are not happy with one of the alternatives I mentioned, one of the groups or companies or collectives, you can move around your data, not just like, if you have your data on Slack, you cannot move around on anyone else. If you have your data on Mattermost or Rocket Chat, which are chat applications, open source, you can easily move them away from Cloud 68 to Stimpriza or to indie hosters, etc., right? So again, big tech, as I think I mentioned this many times, big tech is failing us. I would correct this by saying it has failed us. They have proven, they've proven over and over again for many years that they put money as a priority more than anything else. I understand that we live in a capitalistic society, and money should be a thing that we should manage, but it should not be a priority for many reasons. There are more things that having privacy, owning our data are more important. They should be before getting that paycheck, big paycheck that they're having. So choose small tech, open source software. We should choose, if you're a small and medium enterprise, you should choose ethics, not-for-profit oriented companies from non-for-profit oriented companies. Collectives over corporations, there are popping more and more collectives are out there right now. And the end goal is not for companies like Cloud68 or Indie hosters or Stiprisa to host your data, but it's to learn as many people as possible how they can self-host, so that they're not dependent even to people like me or my colleagues or my friends that are having all these companies running your infrastructure for you. So thank you very much. I think that's it. And if you have any comments or any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Mr. Skikuli, we don't have any questions for you. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for hosting and organizing FOSSCOMM.